Okay, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the zone. Where I just gotta shut my window for a second. Where what's just happened, ladies and gentlemen, is that just last night we've had a brand new Chris and article, and this one should be pretty interesting because it's simply called Chris and Coping, and I just nearly poked myself in the eye. So let's just try and get into this before I hurt myself again. This article or section is still yet to be completed due to stress. Pro tip. While this article examines the coping mechanisms Chris has used over the course of his association with the internet, it should not be taken as any form of diagnosis and is based on amateur analysis. Coping is the act of minimalizing the impact of stress and problems in life. True. In order to intentionally avoid any and all unpleasant realities, Chris takes coping to unhealthy levels. Oh, I bet. People cope using multiple different ways that help reduce stress and increase performance, whereas Chris uses coping mechanisms such as escapism and nostalgia, which are known to be maladaptive and gets absolutely nothing done. You see, yeah, I was almost like I've been through many scenarios where I thought I was going to go in the same direction, where simply think of times where anything was better was the only motive I had. But no, things get different. Unfortunately, this is something you should if you don't necessarily know this consciously to begin with, it's something that should work into your behavior eventually, that you should be able to work out for yourself that, you know what, maybe actually doing something would be far better, because I might start feeling a bit better about myself if I actually accomplished or actually achieved anything useful. Chris can easily be considered the king of escapism, as he does anything he can to avoid the harsh realities of his life. Chris's rise to utter insanity and his refusal to accept things as they are has been popping up now and then throughout Chris' story, though it wouldn't fully come to light until April 15th, 2020, where he no longer even considers himself Christian, but instead believes to have swapped bodies with his creations. He started calling himself Sonichu inside of Christine's body. Make of that what you... I'm actually planning to do another video about Chris's tweets, because apparently, for whatever reason, Jacob Sockless unblocked me from looking at his tweets. So, yeah, you might be looking forward to something like that in the future. Overview. Most people cope with stress by meditating, talking with friends, sleeping, or playing video games. Chris follows these, but has also developed some maladaptive coping mechanisms such as escapism and nostalgia. These tools in moderation can relieve stress, but Chris takes them to unhealthy levels. Coping is used to only temporarily relieve stress, so a person can gather themselves and go finish the stressful task. But Chris uses coping mechanisms for months on end and gets nothing done. For someone who effectively does nothing, Chris leads a very stressful life and takes escapism very seriously. The most notable of examples of escapism include Quickville, a fictional city that Chris believes to be real along with his imaginary friends. And no, that is not role-playing. Chris truly believes that Quickville and its characters are real, in both C-197 and in 1218. Chris also shows signs of avoidance behaviors, the act of avoiding stressful situations or feelings. He claims his fictional concept of the dimensional merge will fix all of his problems and pay off all of the loans once it is complete. Yeah. It's one thing to people to create these worlds to sort of cope in terms of a much better place where things go the way you want them. It's another thing to believe that this coping mechanism is going to completely change your life for the better by simply not doing anything, whilst also thinking about these places. Chris has also pushed nostalgia as far as possible. Decades after leaving school, his mind is still fixated on the positive elements that occurred all the time. Recently, Chris bought a school desk, probably to help relieve the gal pal-filled days. Oh boy. Yeah, I've worked out what was wrong with that sentence as well. Chris dusting himself off. In the years and months prior to September 2011, Chris displayed some degree of being able to move on and away from traumatic events in his life. He'd simply try to throw the events in question to one side before becoming engrossed in whichever new sweetheart or troll crossed his field of vision. Following the death of his father, Chris has lost his coping mechanism. After a protracted period of grieving, Chris instead began using maladaptive coping mechanisms, excluding flouncing, that gradually evolved into their current state over the ensuing 8 to 9 years, among which are escapism, astral projection, the dimensional merge, rationalization. I can't go to BabsCon because of COVID-19, so it must be a part of the merge, disassociation, and safety behaviors, spirit possession, and sensitization, i.e. flipping out over blocks on Twitter, resulting in the soft exile. Nostalgia. I've already done an article about Chris and nostalgia, if you want to go check that out. It's not the longest article in the world, but I think it's going to be, well, I think it is important as to the context of this, the coping saga, or just the coping and flouncing. Damn trolls, your bullying is not appreciated, even locally, yeah, especially locally, so you can just take your bullyings and bully yourselves. If you're bored, go work around the house. Go take a walk. Because you don't need the internet. You don't need to stay cooped up inside. You just need to go outside and enjoy life, and the sun, and the days you have to live. Chris suggesting alternatives to the internet that in reality he refused to do. YouTuber, absolutely. If you're wondering, that's why a lot of the things here are also like highlighted in blue. These it's the irony. That's the irony font, as I'm going to call it from now on. The first of Chris's maladaptive coping mechanisms, Chris's habit of flouncing or rage quitting the internet, is something Chris has attempted several times. This behavior bears the most resemblance to the maladaptive coping strategy of avoidance. But Chris's flouncing behavior bears several differences. In these cases, Chris only intended to make the internet think he had quit, and hoped that by lying low, the trolls would disappear. However, trolls would quickly manipulate Chris back online by using an undercover troll, posing as his real-life friends, to convince him that another sweetheart has been confirmed to be legitimate, and the sweetheart would in turn convince Chris to make more videos. In the case of the first instance of Chris flouncing, he returned after a mere 36 hours to ramble about a Family Guy spin-off. Yeah. You see, this is why, if Chris really wanted to seriously take some time away from doing all this, then you know what? I reckon he would have done it a long time ago. But it's just, everything about the internet is far too inviting for him about, his popularity, and he feels as if like he's going to spend more than, let's say, 2 weeks away. It's just going to go completely, downhill, and nobody would want to pay attention to him to feed into that completely oversized ego of his. Escapism. Chris has used escapism as a maladaptive coping mechanism against reality. Even in his younger adult years, Chris took escapism to unhealthy levels, such as believing to have imaginary friends and magic powers, especially in moments of stress, as during Mary Lee Walsh's confrontation over his attraction signs. Chris's habit of escapism greatly ramped up in the years following his father's 2011 death. By 2017, he was invested further in trying to learn psychic powers and believed that imaginary friend Magi-chan was tangible and dancing with him at the 2017 BronyCon event. Yeah, that's just... In late 2017, the Idea Guys exploited Chris's habit of escapism to brainwash their beliefs over his fantasy world, followed by a parade of copycats as a result of their manipulation. Chris retreated further into his fantasies, now believing in concepts such as polyamorous marriage, the dimensional merge, and the CPU goddesses. Role-playing. Main article, Spirit's Possession. Chris has a history of role-playing. He roleplayed in front of Mary Lee Walsh as Sonichu and read out a speech for her. Oh, yeah. In a phone sex conversation, Chris roleplayed as Sonichu for sexual pleasure. In recent times, he roleplays to escape reality. His first escapist roleplay was of Magi-chan on the 15th of August 2019. He stopped it a month later and declared that Chris had come back to 1218. He also uses his sock puppet account, Magi-chan11448, for role-playing as Magi-chan. How Magi-chan types without a body is something only Emmanuel will know. He started to roleplay as Sonichu from the 15th of April 2020. He claimed he was possessed on the 31st of March 2020, make of that what you will, as a coping mechanism for the cancellation of BabsCon. It's literally the only reason why. On the 19th of April 2020, Chris appeared on a live stream where he appeared to refer to the host to him as Sonichu in Chris's body. And if you know anything at all about the history between me and that live stream, you are absolutely going to be in for quite the surprise. When role-playing, Chris refers to himself in the third person. In videos, he tries to change his voice and vocabulary. When role-playing as Sonichu, he calls himself Mama. He sometimes changed the profile picture and name on his social media to match the OC he is possessed by. Well, sometimes he does it. He also changes his signature to match the OC's name. Again, I haven't really seen too many examples of that. So, I guess. The behavior was unseen from Chris till the Idea guys in Teen Toon Squad roleplayed as characters from Quickville to bend Chris into their will. After their removal, Chris retained the idea of roleplaying by saying the OCs are manifesting in Dimension 1218, the real world. Though his body, for various reasons, when roleplaying, Chris says things that would sound very weird if it came from Chris's mouth. For example, he called Bob a guilty pleasure wife. He called Bob, his mother, a guilty pleasure waifu while role-playing as Magi-chan. He might say this to prove he is no longer Chris, as Chris would never say something like this, right? Actually, there's been accusations that Chris has said stuff like that before. Much darker stuff, I'll be honest, about his mother. He may be thinking that if he is caught for saying something stupid, some stupid shit, he can pin the blame on his imaginary character and get away with it scot-free. Not quite true. And here is the role-playing. Sonichu to give a speech to the extreme. Sonichu, sexy time with a 19-year-old girl. Yeah. Magi-chan, reason, absolutely no reason whatever. Sonichu to literally attend BabsCon, but apparently Chris is not back yet. And Mewtwo, as of literally like just under 2 weeks ago, white knighting himself on Twitter, thinking that, again, by the time I go back into like talking about Chris's tweets, you're going to pretty much see why, but that might be a little bit of a while. Power fantasies. Oh boy. A power fantasy is a form of wish fulfillment that involves someone who feels powerless, making themselves seem more significant. Yeah, absolutely. I've known this all too well. A popular example of this kind of behavior is when an author makes themselves a major component of the story and gives themselves unlimited power over an unfavorable situation they'd encounter. Such characters are often referred to as Mary Sues or Marty Stews. One of the best examples of this is Chris coping with stressful situations through escapism by replicating them in his comics. Chris's comics have served as an outlet to form a narrative centered around a stressful event, instead making everything work out as he would have wanted. Oftentimes, the people who gave him a hard time would be depicted as villains, or anyone who told Chris legitimately for how it was, while Chris or his lackeys would prove to be powerful enough to defeat them with ease. Chris originally centered these comics around his love child Sonichu, where he would showcase his many adventures and overcome various bad guys. However, even this wouldn't stop Chris from making the comics go full power fantasy at as early as the very first issue. From issue 2 onwards, Chris would then turn his comics into a power fantasy series where he would be in direct control over all of the people who'd wronged him and get all of the things he wants. This type of behavior from Chris isn't strictly limited to his comics. New Age methods. Chris has also been utilizing several New Age concepts and beliefs in order to avoid reality. Now, I haven't technically done an article about meditation as of yet, but I feel like that might be a pretty big one coming up. I'm just going to see if, because I believe this is where delusions and enablers, maladaptive coping mechanisms, cult, fantasy. There may be something with this somewhere. Interview with Noah and Max Mandu. You know what? I don't care even if the live stream did get taken. I could probably just talk about this here. In fact, you know what? I'm just gonna skim through this part very, very quickly. Let's see, summary. You know what? Forget it. I'll just do that. I'll just do that next time. Also, because this is all going to be a new thing we're going to do for this channel, and I hopefully there's going to be another one of these coping sagas coming up, because I enjoy reading these very, very much. But also, if you were thinking about donating to Chris, well, let me just give you a bit of an update. Coping counter. Chris has many maladaptive coping mechanisms based in fantasies and magical thinking that he resorts to when reality doesn't go his way. It has been 11 days since Chris made up a new escapist fantasy to escape reality. It's been 510 days since the dimensional merge was to be completed, a coping mechanism Chris believes will rescue him from his debt and other life problems. Before, it was just his autism being cured. And now you can see realistically what the whole purpose of the merge was about. 944 days since Chris joined the cult of the Idea Guys, which further fueled his escapist fantasies. And begging counter. If you're considering donating to or buying something from Chris, please keep in mind that he lies about needing money and habitually neglects his customers. And worse, it has been 0 days since Chris last begged for money. It has been 235 days since Chris last uploaded pages to meet his paid obligations to the Solitude comic, and it has also been 3,896 days since Chris last applied for a job. That's just over nearly 11 years at this point, and quite frankly, again, if you're just new to this and you think that's a bit of a shocker, well, trust me, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, then you'll go to that jaw is about to hit the floor, because that is not even the tip of the iceberg. And with all that being said and done, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading of Chris and Coping. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the article yourselves. Please also make sure to also like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to see you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.